The door clicked shut behind us, softly sealing off the cacophony of the city street and the fading echoes of the wedding party, still going strong in the grand atrium of downtown Atlanta. Finally, we had a moment alone in the foyer of my new condo. Our condo, as my mother, Denise, had been diligently pointing out for the past 3 months. I gratefully slipped off my classic white stilettos, my feet sighing in relief as they met the cool hardwood floor. Enduring a whole day in those heels had been utter torture, but Mom had insisted on that particular style. "Aisha, you simply must look impeccable," she declared when I dared suggest something more comfortable. Malik stood beside me, carefully unbuttoning his impeccably tailored suit. He was a tall, distinguished man, 38 years old, with refined features and deep brown eyes that held a certain attentiveness. His hands were well manicured, with long fingers that moved with impressive skill whenever he chose to communicate in sign language. Over the course of our 6-month courtship, I had grown accustomed to his silence, to the way he communicated through gestures, written notes, and those knowing glances. My mother had always said it was a small price to pay for such a well-off and respectable husband. I turned to him, about to offer him tea using sign language, as I always did when we were together. But before I could even begin to raise my hands, Malik looked directly into my eyes and said, in a perfectly clear, deep voice, "Aisha, we need to talk. We need to have a serious conversation about what is really going on." I froze, every muscle tensing. My heart seemed to skip a beat, maybe several, before pounding in my chest with twice the usual force. My hands went numb, my knees felt like jelly, and I instinctively reached for the wall to steady myself to keep from falling. My husband, the man who had supposedly been mute since childhood due to some kind of trauma, was speaking clearly, distinctly. There was a slight gravelly edge to his voice, but it was completely normal. I opened my mouth, trying desperately to say something, anything, but couldn't manage to squeeze out a single sound. Malik took a step toward me, reaching out his hand, but I instinctively recoiled. Something akin to regret or guilt flashed in his eyes, but he didn't back down. "I'm sorry," he said, and I could hear genuine remorse echoing in his voice. "I know this is a shock. Let's sit down and I'll explain everything. You need to know the truth about who I am, why all this was necessary, and why your mother." I didn't let him finish his sentence. I yanked open the bathroom door, rushed inside, and locked it firmly behind me. I sank onto the edge of the tub, feeling my hands tremble uncontrollably, and tears streamed down my cheeks, blurring and smearing my carefully applied wedding makeup. Malik wasn't mute. All this time he could talk. All this time he had been lying to me, pretending, putting on some elaborate performance. And my mother knew. Could my own mother have been complicit in this deception? Thoughts raced through my mind in a chaotic whirlwind, making it almost impossible to focus on any one thing. I tried to recall all our dates, every single time Malik had used gestures or written notes, every moment I'd seen a kind of sadness in his eyes that I had so readily dismissed as a part of his condition. Had everything been a lie? Was every gesture, every look, a carefully planned part of this elaborate act? I heard his footsteps outside the door, followed by a soft, tentative knock. "Aisha, please come out. I understand you're in shock. I know you feel betrayed, but just give me a chance to explain. Let me tell you how it really was." I didn't answer. I couldn't. A painful spasm constricted my throat, making it difficult to even breathe. Instead, I just stared at my reflection in the mirror above the sink. A bride in a luxurious white dress that had cost more than my entire annual salary as a high school English teacher, with a meticulously styled hairdo that had taken 3 agonizing hours to create. Now, with trembling lips and smeared mascara, I looked more like a ghost, a pale imitation of my own happiness. A happiness that, apparently, had never even existed in the first place. I was 27 years old. Most of my peers were already married, some even raising families of their own. And I was still living with my mother in our modest 3-bedroom apartment in a quiet neighborhood, teaching at school and quietly dreaming of having my own family, of finding a man who would love the real me, without any conditions or demands. My mother, Denise Holcomb, had always been a woman with a strong personality, to put it mildly. After my father passed away 8 years ago, she became even more domineering, more firmly convinced of her own rightness. She seemed to decide everything. How I should dress, where I should work, even who I should socialize with. I tried to object, tried to assert my own independence, but each time I ran headfirst into a brick wall of misunderstanding. "You just don't understand how the world works," she would say, shaking her head slowly. "I only want what's best for you so you don't repeat my mistakes." Her mistakes, as I understood it, were marrying my father for love rather than for financial security. They had been together for 23 years, and I remembered them as being happy and deeply in love. But after his death, Mom seemed to rewrite their entire history, convincing herself that if Dad had been more well-off, more successful, he could have afforded better treatment, and then everything would have been completely different. 6 months ago, she came home practically beaming, her eyes shining brightly, and announced that she had found the perfect husband candidate for me. Malik Ellington, the son of an old acquaintance, a successful entrepreneur, the owner of a chain of appliance stores. He was 38 years old, never married, educated, well-mannered, and most importantly, financially secure. And, Mom added after a slight pause, he's been mute since childhood due to a trauma. "But that shouldn't bother you," she quickly added, noticing my startled expression. "He writes beautifully, and he's excellent with sign language. Most importantly, Aisha, he's looking for a quiet, domestic wife who will create a comfortable home for him. You're the perfect fit." I tried to protest, to explain that I wasn't looking for a mail-order husband, that I wanted to meet someone organically, to actually fall in love. But Mom was adamant. She had already arranged the first meeting, already planned out practically everything. And deep down, if I was being honest with myself, I was simply tired of resisting. Tired of the loneliness, tired of the knowing looks from my coworkers when they talked about their own families, tired of acquaintances constantly asking, "So when are you finally getting married?" Our first meeting took place at a coffee shop downtown. I arrived early, feeling nervous, twisting a napkin in my hands, and then I saw him. He was tall, with undeniably handsome features, wearing a sharp, perfectly tailored suit. He walked into the cafe and scanned the room, his eyes searching. Our eyes met, and he gave me a warm, sincere smile that made something flutter in my chest, a feeling I hadn't experienced in quite some time. He walked over to my table, greeted me gallantly with a slight bow of his head, and signed that he was happy to meet me. I smiled back awkwardly, unsure of how to properly interact with someone who couldn't speak. But Malik seemed to sense my discomfort, my embarrassment, and he quickly took a notebook and pen from his pocket. "Please don't hesitate to speak aloud," he wrote in neat, legible handwriting. "I'm an excellent lip reader and understand everything you say. I will write or use gestures myself." The conversation started surprisingly easily. He asked questions about my job, my interests, and my hobbies. He wrote quickly, his pen gliding effortlessly across the paper, leaving behind straight, precise lines. I talked about my love for literature, how much I enjoyed teaching and seeing young minds discover the magic of the world of books. He listened intently, or rather, read my lips, and I saw genuine interest in his eyes. "I have always admired teachers," he wrote. "It is a noble profession. You shape the future generation and help children find their way." I blushed at his words. Few people took my job so seriously. Most people considered being a high school English teacher not as a real career, but simply as a way to pass the time until I finally got married. We met again and again. Malik took me to upscale restaurants, the theater, and art exhibitions. He was attentive and thoughtful, always remembering my preferences. If I even mentioned that I loved white roses, he would be sure to have a bouquet of them waiting for me at our next meeting. If I said I wanted to see a certain movie, he would buy tickets for the very next showing. My mother was ecstatic. "See, I told you he was perfect," she repeated every time I returned from a date. "He's financially secure, respectable, and treats you like a queen. What more do you need for happiness?" I honestly didn't know how to answer that question. On one hand, Malik was genuinely a pleasant person to be around. He was intelligent and well-read, and we found plenty of common ground. On the other hand, something deep inside me resisted, something felt off. Maybe it was the absence of that spark, that undeniable magic that you read about in novels and see in movies. Or maybe it was just my own fear of making such a serious commitment after so many years of being single. After 3 months of dating, Malik proposed. It was in Piedmont Park, where we often went for walks. He dropped to one knee, pulled out a small box containing a ring, and wrote on a piece of paper, "Aisha, you make me happy. Be my wife." I looked at him, then at the ring with the large sparkling diamond that clearly cost a small fortune, and I found myself completely unable to utter a single word. A chaotic storm of thoughts swirled around in my head. Did I actually love this man? Was I truly ready to marry him? Did I even want to spend the rest of my life with him? But then I saw the hope shining in his eyes. I saw how much this meant to him, and I remembered Mom's words echoing in my head. Love will come with time. The most important things are respect and care. Maybe she was right. Maybe passionate love only truly existed in books, and in real life stability, reliability, and a feeling of security were far more important. Yes, I whispered, and Malik beamed with joy. He slipped the ring onto my finger, hugged me tightly, and I felt his heart beating steadily in his chest, a strong, reassuring rhythm that should have calmed me. But instead I only felt a strange, unsettling emptiness inside. The next 3 months flew by in a whirlwind of wedding preparations. My mother took charge of absolutely everything. She chose the ballroom for the reception, made the guest list, ordered the dress, the flowers, and the decorations. I felt more like an outsider, passively observing my own wedding, than an active participant in it. "Mom, maybe we should do something a little more modest," I tried to argue when she showed me the estimate for the reception for 120 guests. "We really don't need that many people." But she simply waved me off, dismissing my concerns with a flick of her wrist. "Aisha, this is a once-in-a-lifetime event. You should remember this day forever. Besides, Malik insists on a proper celebration. He wants to show everyone what a beautiful bride he has." Malik himself genuinely didn't object to any of Mom's decisions. Whenever I tried to discuss the wedding details with him, he would just nod and write, "I trust your taste." But I knew deep down that it wasn't my taste. It was Mom's taste. And that irritated me more and more with each passing day. A week before the wedding, I had a complete meltdown. I was sitting in my room, wearing yet another wedding gown that Mom had insisted I try on, and suddenly I burst into tears. Uncontrollable sobs shook my body, quickly smearing my makeup. I honestly didn't understand what was happening to me. I should have been excited, eagerly looking forward to the wedding and to starting my new life. But instead, I felt nothing but a deep-seated fear and confusion. Mom walked into the room and stopped short when she saw me. "Aisha, what's wrong?" Her voice was filled with genuine concern for once. "I don't know, Mom," I sobbed. "I just don't know if I'm doing the right thing. I'm not even sure that I love Malik. I'm not sure I even want to get married." Mom sat down next to me and embraced me, holding me close. "Sweetheart, this is just pre-wedding jitters. All brides go through this. Malik is a wonderful man. He will take care of you, give you stability and protect you. And love will come with time once you're living together and building a family. But what if it doesn't?" I whispered, my voice barely audible. "What if I never love him?" Mom sighed and gently stroked my hair, trying to soothe me. "Aisha, I lived with your father for 23 years. And you know what I regret the most? That we were so consumed by love for each other that we forgot about practical things, about saving money, about securing our future, about taking care of our health. And when he got sick, we simply didn't have the means to afford good treatment. If I had chosen a more financially secure husband, perhaps things would have been different. Perhaps your father would still be alive." Her words pierced me like a knife. I had never thought about it that way before. I had never blamed Mom for Dad's death. It was just a tragic accident, a swift illness that couldn't be stopped, no matter what we did. "Mom, that wasn't your fault or Dad's," I said, trying to reassure her. "It just happened." She shook her head slowly. Maybe, but I don't want you to make the same mistakes that I did. Malik will give you everything you need. You will never be in need again. You won't have to worry about tomorrow, and that's more important than romantic feelings, which, let's face it, fade away eventually. I honestly didn't know what to say to that. Maybe she was right. Maybe I had just read too many romance novels and expected the impossible from life. Maybe stability and care truly were more important than butterflies in the stomach, and a racing heart whenever you see the one you love. The wedding day itself was sunny and warm, almost too perfect. I woke up early feeling completely unrest after a restless, troubled night. The whole house had been transformed into a beehive of activity. Mom fussed over every detail, giving last-minute instructions to everyone. The makeup artist and the hairstylist worked their magic on me, transforming me into someone I barely recognized. My bridesmaids chattered excitedly, discussing their outfits and the plans for the reception. My best friend Shayla helped me get dressed. She was one of the few people who knew about my doubts and my fears. "Aisha, if you're not sure about this, it's really not too late to call it off," she whispered as she carefully fastened the countless tiny buttons on the back of my gown. I shook my head slowly. "No, it's fine. I'm just nervous like all brides." She looked at me intently, her eyes searching mine. "Are you absolutely sure that you want this? Because a wedding isn't just a beautiful dress and a party. It's a decision for life, Aisha. A lifelong commitment." "I know," I replied, turning to look at my reflection in the mirror. The woman staring back at me in the snow-white dress, with her neatly styled hair and flawless makeup, looked beautiful, but there was no joy in her eyes, only a quiet sense of resignation. But I had already made my decision. Malik was a good man. We would be happy together. The ceremony at City Hall passed by in a blur. I barely remember saying, "I do." I remember Malik slipping the wedding band onto my finger, and our brief, obligatory kiss under the polite applause of the guests. His lips were warm and soft, and the kiss was gentle and chaste, but I felt nothing but detachment, as if it wasn't even happening to me. The reception at the hotel ballroom was lavish, to say the least. Mom had spared no expense on anything. Snow-white tablecloths, fresh flowers on every table, exquisite dishes, expensive champagne, and 120 guests, most of whom I had never even met before. Malik's relatives, his business partners, Mom's acquaintances. Everyone smiled, congratulated us, and wished us a lifetime of happiness. Malik sat next to me holding my hand, occasionally leaning over and writing something on a notepad, usually compliments, gentle words that were clearly intended to make me happy. But instead, I felt only weariness and a growing desire for it all to end quickly. Mom looked happy and completely satisfied with herself. She flitted from table to table, accepting congratulations and talking about what a wonderful son-in-law she had acquired. Her eyes shone with triumph, as if she had just won some incredibly important battle. "Your mother is so happy," Malik wrote, noticing my gaze fixed on her. "She genuinely cares about your happiness." I nodded, unable to answer aloud. I didn't know whether Mom truly cared about my happiness, or simply about her own peace of mind, knowing that I was finally settled and taken care of. I honestly didn't know the answer to that question. The evening dragged on forever. Dancing, toasts, traditional wedding games. I smiled politely, thanked people for their congratulations, and danced a slow dance with Malik to some romantic song. His hands on my waist were firm but not clingy. He led me carefully around the dance floor, as if I were some fragile porcelain doll that needed to be protected from any harm. Finally, around 11 o'clock in the evening, the reception began to wind down. The guests gradually departed, wishing us happiness and urging us to give Mom grandchildren as soon as possible. Mom kissed me repeatedly, whispering in my ear, "You made the right choice, my daughter. Be happy." Then she hugged Malik, said something to him in a low voice, and he nodded in response. We got into the car that Malik had hired for our wedding. The driver took us to my new condo, or rather our condo, as Mom had kept reminding me. Malik had bought it a month ago. A spacious two-bedroom apartment in a new upscale high-rise building near downtown Atlanta. I had only seen pictures of it. He said he wanted to surprise me, furnishing everything himself so that I could move into a completely finished home. The drive took about 20 minutes. We rode in silence. Malik stared out the window, thoughtfully biting his lip. I looked down at my hands in their white gloves, at the ring on my finger, which still felt foreign and uncomfortable. Finally, we arrived at the condo. The driver opened the door for us and wished us a lifetime of happiness. Malik took my arm gently and we walked into the lobby. A brand new scratch-free elevator whisked us silently up to the 18th floor. Malik took out the keys, opened the door, and we stepped inside. The condo was spacious and bright, with a large living room featuring floor-to-ceiling windows, a modern kitchen, and 2 bedrooms. The furniture was new, expensive, and tastefully chosen. Everything looked perfect, like something straight out of the pages of an interior design magazine. I removed my shoes and my feet gratefully met the cool, smooth hardwood floor. Malik closed the door behind us, and we were finally alone in the silence of the condo, the place that was now supposed to be our home. And then he spoke in that deep, slightly gravelly voice that made my heart freeze in my chest, then beat at a frantic pace. Now I was sitting in the bathroom, listening to him knock on the door again, begging me to come out and talk to him. But I couldn't bring myself to turn the key, open the door, and look into the eyes of the man who had pretended to be mute for the past 6 months, and now wanted to explain why he had felt the need to do it. "Aisha, please," his voice sounded pleading. "I know you feel betrayed and you have every right to feel that way, but please just listen to me. Hear me out and then you can decide what you want to do next. I won't hold you here if you want to leave, but just give me a chance to explain." I looked at my reflection in the mirror. Smeared mascara, red eyes, trembling lips. I looked less like a happy bride, and more like the victim of some elaborate, cruel prank. Taking a deep breath to steady myself, I stood up, splashed cold water on my face, dried it with a soft towel, and then slowly turned the key in the lock and opened the door. Malik stood in the hallway, leaning his back against the wall. He was still wearing his wedding suit, although he had unbuttoned the top few buttons of his shirt and removed his jacket. Seeing me, he straightened up and took a step toward me. "Thank you for coming out," he said softly, his voice filled with relief. "Let's go into the living room and sit down. This is going to be a long talk." I silently walked past him into the living room and sat down on the very edge of the new leather sofa, careful not to smudge my dress any further. Malik sat in the armchair opposite me, carefully maintaining a distance between us, as if he understood that I needed space. He remained silent for a long time, carefully choosing his words. Then he took a deep breath and began to speak. And what I heard over the next 30 minutes completely overturned everything I thought I knew about the last 6 months, about who Malik truly was, and about what role my own mother had played in it all. "I am not mute, Aisha," he began, his voice steady. "I never have been. I was born and raised in a regular family, went to a regular school and earned my degree. Yes, I own my own business, the appliance stores. That part is true, but everything else you know about me is a carefully constructed story. A complete fabrication." I stared at him, completely unable to believe what I was hearing. He spoke calmly, without any visible emotion, as if he were talking about the weather, or describing a movie that he had recently watched. 2 years ago I was married. My wife's name was Chloe. We were together for 5 years. I loved her deeply and I thought everything was fine between us. But it turned out that she had been seeing another man for a long time, for over a year in fact. And when I finally found out about it, she simply packed her bags and left. She told me that I was boring and predictable, and that things were simply much more interesting with the other man. He paused and I saw a flicker of pain in his eyes, a genuine deep pain of betrayal. The divorce was hard. She demanded half of my business and half of our assets. And she got it because I was a fool who believed in love, and didn't even bother with a prenuptial agreement. After the divorce, I swore to myself that I would never marry for love again. That next time I would be much smarter, much more calculating. "And that's when you decided to pretend to be mute?" I burst out, my voice sounding strange and raspy from all the tears I had been crying. "To test whether a woman would be willing to marry you for your money, And not for your charm and eloquence? Malik shook his head slowly. Not exactly. The idea wasn't entirely mine. It was a joint plan, a collaboration with your mother. I froze, completely stunned. Mom knew? Not just knew, but she was the initiator of this whole insane plan? Malik stood up from the armchair, walked over to the window, and stood looking out at the city lights. Denise Holcomb is my godmother, he said, his voice barely a whisper. We've known each other since I was a child, although we rarely spoke for many years. But after my divorce, she heard about my situation and offered to meet with me. She said that she wanted to help me. I listened in stunned silence, unable to believe my ears. Mom was his godmother? She had never even mentioned it, had never let on that she knew Malik from his childhood. She told me about you, Aisha, Malik continued, his voice soft and low. That you were a teacher, that you were smart, kind, and domestic, that you weren't spoiled or chasing after money, and that you valued real principles in life. And she suggested that we meet. But why pretend to be mute? I asked, my voice shaking. I just don't understand. If she spoke so highly of me, why all the lies? Why all the elaborate deception? Malik turned around and looked directly at me. His eyes filled with a strange mix of regret and vulnerability. Because I was afraid, he confessed. Afraid of being fooled again. Afraid of trusting the wrong person again. Denise suggested the plan. She said, if Aisha agrees to marry you, even though you can't speak, it will prove that she isn't superficial, that she's interested in the man himself, and not just in his ability to deliver a pretty speech. So, it had all been a test, a trial by fire. So, you and Mom decided to test me, to use me like a piece of litmus paper to see if I was good enough for you? Aisha, it wasn't like that, Malik said, taking a step toward me, his hand outstretched. I never wanted to hurt you, but after what I had been through, I simply couldn't bring myself to trust a woman who would fall in love with my words or my promises. I wanted to find someone who would accept me as I was, without any pretense or expectation. But you created the pretense yourself. I yelled, leaping up from the sofa. You pretended to be someone else entirely. How can I even know who you really are? If you've been lying to me since the first date? Malik just went silent, and he couldn't seem to find the right words to say anything at all. And in that silence, a terrible realization suddenly dawned on me. Wait, I whispered, my voice barely audible. Mom, my mother. She was the one who pushed for this marriage, convincing me that he was perfect. She kept saying that love would grow over time, that stability was what truly mattered. She manipulated me. She arranged my entire life without even asking what I wanted. Malik didn't say a word, but I could see the confirmation in his eyes. And that's when I felt something deep inside me just shatter. It wasn't just anger, and it wasn't just hurt, but something far deeper and much more painful. Betrayal. Betrayal by the person I was closest to, the one person I had trusted with my whole life. Get out, I said quietly, barely above a whisper. I don't care where you go. Go to another room, go stay with friends, go to a hotel. But right now I just can't stand to look at you. I can't. Malik hesitated, looking like he wanted to say something. Aisha, I truly regret all of this. I know I messed up, but please give me another chance. Get out. I raised my voice, and he visibly flinched. Right now. Immediately. He nodded and slowly walked toward the door. At the doorway, he turned back to face me. I'll be staying at my brother's place. Here's his number, in case you decide you want to talk. He placed a piece of paper on the table near the door. And Aisha, please forgive me. Please truly forgive me. The door clicked shut behind him, and I was left completely alone in this perfect condo that he had so carefully furnished for our life together. A life that was built on nothing but a lie. I just sank down onto the sofa, pulled my knees up to my chest and started to weep. I cried about everything. I cried about the lost illusions, the trust that had been broken, and the maternal love that had turned out to be so strange and twisted. I cried because I didn't even know who I was anymore. Was I a wife? Or just a gullible fool who had been settled like some mindless child? I have no idea how much time passed, Could have been an hour, maybe even more. When the tears finally stopped, I got up and went to the bathroom. I washed my face, took off the wedding dress, threw it on the floor in a heap, and changed into a simple nightgown that I found in the bedroom closet. Malik had apparently made sure that there were clothes here for me. I lay down on the bed, pulled the blanket up over me, and just stared blankly at the ceiling. My thoughts were racing, tormenting me and not letting me rest. What should I do now? Forgive him? But how could I ever forgive such a terrible deception? Leave him? But where would I even go? Back to Mom, who was a willing participant in this whole messed up plan. The phone on the nightstand suddenly rang and I jumped. I picked it up and saw Mom's name on the screen. Of course she was calling. She probably wanted to know how the first night of our marriage had gone. If everything was going according to her perfect plan. I stared at the screen for what felt like forever. And then I hit the decline button. I just couldn't talk to her right now. I didn't know what to say, and I was afraid that I would just scream. The phone rang again. I declined the call again. Then a message came through. Aisha, why aren't you answering? Is everything okay? Please call me. I hurled the phone onto the bed and covered my face with my hands. No, Mom. Nothing is okay. Your perfect little plan fell apart because you forgot one tiny detail. I am not something to be arranged and then forgotten about. I am a living, breathing person with feelings, with a right to the truth, and a right to live my own life. I just couldn't sleep. I tossed and turned trying to find a comfortable position, but my thoughts were just not letting me have any peace. I started replaying all of my dates with Malik in my head. Every time he used gestures, every time he wrote notes. Was all of it just an act? Was every gesture, every smile a complete and utter lie? But at the same time I also remembered his eyes, how warm and attentive they were, and how I had seen genuine sincerity there. And I remembered his thoughtfulness, his attention to even the smallest details. Was all of that just pretense too? Or did he actually have some real feelings for me? No. I whispered into the darkness. How could he possibly have real feelings for someone that he had been deceiving from the very first meeting? Just before dawn, I finally drifted off into a restless sleep. I dreamed about the wedding, but all of the guests were just faceless shadows, and Malik was standing at the altar with his mouth sewn shut with thick thread. I tried to scream, I tried to say that this was all wrong, but no sound would escape my throat. I woke up to a knock at the door. Bright sunlight was streaming in through the window, which meant that it was well past noon. I got up, threw on a robe, and went to the door, still feeling groggy and disoriented. I looked through the peephole and saw Mom. She was standing there with grocery bags in her hands, and she looked really worried. I hesitated, not knowing if I should even open the door, but Mom knocked persistently again, and I realized that she wasn't going to leave until we talked. So I opened the door. Mom came in, put the bags down on the floor, and looked at me closely. Aisha, what happened? You look terrible. Why weren't you answering my calls? Where's Malik? I silently walked into the kitchen and turned on the kettle. Mom followed me. Her face was just full of anxiety. Aisha, you're scaring me. Tell me what happened. I turned to face her, and there must have been something in my eyes that made her take a step back. Malik can speak, I said in a completely even voice. He was never mute. He was pretending this whole time, and you knew about it from the very beginning. Mom's face turned pale and then flushed bright red. She opened her mouth and then closed it again, completely unable to find the right words. Is it true? I asked, even though I already knew the answer. Were you involved in this deception? Did you manipulate me, arrange my life without ever asking for my consent? Mom leaned against the counter and ran a hand over her face. Aisha, I can explain everything. Explain. I sat down across from her. Explain why my own mother decided that she had the right to control my life? Why didn't you just tell me the truth about Malik? Why were you a part of this whole production? Mom was silent for a long time, just staring out the window. Then she sighed and finally started to speak. Malik is my godson. I knew his parents before he was even born. We were really close friends, but then life happened and we drifted apart and hardly spoke anymore. When he got divorced and I found out what he had gone through, how badly he had been betrayed, I just felt so sorry for him. He's such a good guy, always hardworking, honest, and just respectable. And I thought. She stopped, carefully choosing her words. You thought he was the perfect match for me, I finished for her. And you just decided to orchestrate our lives without even asking either of us what we wanted. Aisha, I meant well. Mom looked at me with this pleading gaze. You had been alone for so long. I saw how you were suffering, how lonely you were, and I knew Malik. I knew that he was a good man, that he would take care of you and give you everything you needed to be happy. Did I want to harm you? No, you didn't, I conceded. But you decided for me. You were a part of a lie that was supposed to be the very foundation of my marriage. What kind of relationship can even be built on a lie? Mom shook her head. It wasn't a lie. Not entirely. Malik really was looking for a wife. He truly wanted to start a family. And this mute experiment was necessary for him to make sure that you were marrying him for the right reasons. Not for pretty words or empty promises, but because you saw the real person inside. Is that really so bad? Yes. I pounded my fist on the table. Yes, Mom. It is bad. Because the foundation of any relationship is trust and honesty. And you two started with deception. How can I ever trust him now? Trust you? How can I even know that this isn't just another lie, another manipulation? Mom stood up, came over to me and tried to hug me, but I pulled away. Don't. I don't want your hugs right now. I want the truth. The whole truth about what happened and what you planned. Mom sighed and went back to her chair. Fine, I'll tell you everything. And she told me how Malik had come to her after his divorce, completely broken and having lost all faith in love and women. How she had offered to introduce him to me, describing how good, reliable, and domestic I was. How Malik agreed to meet me, but asked for some time to be absolutely sure that I wasn't like his ex-wife. The whole idea for the muteness was his, Mom admitted. He said that he wanted to see how a woman would react to a man who couldn't speak. Would she be patient, kind? Or would she just run away at the first sign of any difficulty? And I agreed because I also wanted to be sure that he was right for you, that he wouldn't hurt you or leave you. So it was like a test for both of you. I just couldn't believe what I was hearing. So he was testing me and you were testing him? Mom nodded. Yes. And when I saw how he treated you, how caring and attentive he was, I just knew that he was a truly good person, that you would be happy with him. But you forgot to ask what I thought, I said bitterly. You forgot that I have a right to choose, a right to the truth. I just thought that it would be better this way, Mom said softly, almost whispering. I thought that if you found out the truth after the wedding, when you were already together, that you would forgive him and understand that it was all for your own good. I looked at her, my own mother, who I had loved all my life, and I felt this strange mix of pity and anger. Pity because I saw that she truly believed that she was doing the right thing. And anger because she didn't see me as an adult who was capable of making her own decisions. Mom, I don't know if I can forgive you, I finally said. Not now. Maybe with time. But right now I just need to figure out my own feelings, to understand what I want to do next. And for that I need to be alone. Mom nodded, wiping away the tears that had started to stream down her cheeks. I understand. Forgive me, Aisha. I truly just wanted what was best for you. She stood up, picked up her bag and turned back at the doorway. If you decide that you want to talk, I'm always here. I love you, honey. After she left, I was alone again. I sat down on the sofa, pulled my knees up to my chest, and tried to figure out what I should do next. Divorce him. File for an annulment since the marriage was clearly based on fraud. That seemed like the logical decision, but something deep inside me was resisting it. Maybe it was because I remembered the look in Malik's eyes when he had asked for my forgiveness. Or maybe it was because I realized that he, too, was a victim in this whole situation. A victim of his ex-wife's betrayal, and a victim of the fear of being deceived all over again. But that doesn't excuse the lie, I said aloud, as if I was trying to convince myself. I spent the entire day in the condo, not leaving, and not answering any calls. I ate whatever I could find in the refrigerator, stared blankly out the window and tried to read a book, but I just couldn't focus. Toward evening, the doorbell rang again. This time it was my friend Shayla. I opened the door, and she immediately gave me a hug. Aisha, your mom called me. She said that you were in trouble. What happened? I let her in and we sat down on the sofa. I told her everything. That Malik wasn't mute, that it had all been a fraud from the start, and that Mom had been a willing participant in the whole plan. Shayla listened intently, her eyes widening in astonishment. When I was finished, she was silent for a long time, just processing all of the information. God, Aisha, that's just insane, she finally breathed. So they lied to you from the very beginning. What now? He just expects you to forgive everything and then live happily ever after? I shrugged. I don't know what he expects. He went to stay at his brother's place yesterday when I asked him to leave. Shayla took my hand. What do you want? Not what your mother wants, not what Malik wants. You? What are you feeling? I thought about it. What was I feeling? Anger? Yes. Hurt? Definitely. Disappointment, of course. But there was something else too. Something that I didn't want to admit, not even to myself. I don't know, I confessed. I'm angry at him and I'm angry at Mom. But at the same time, I remember our dates, how attentive and caring he was. And I keep wondering if that was all just a performance, or if there was something real there. Shayla squeezed my hand. Aisha, only you can decide what to do next. But just know that whatever you choose, I'll be right here for you. If you want a divorce, I'll help you. If you want to give him another chance, I'll support that too. The main thing is that it has to be your decision, not one that's being forced on you by someone else. Her words really warmed me. At least I had one person who wasn't trying to manipulate me or decide what I needed. Thank you, Shayla. Truly thank you. We spent the whole evening together, just talking about various things, trying to distract ourselves from the situation. Shayla made dinner with whatever she could find in the fridge, and we ate as if it were just a normal evening at a friend's place, and not the first day after a wedding that had turned out to be nothing but a huge deception. When Shayla left, I was alone with my thoughts again. I picked up the phone and looked at the piece of paper with Malik's brother's number that he had left behind. I stared at the digits for a long time, trying to decide whether or not I should call him. Give him a chance to explain completely. Shayla's voice echoed in my head. Hear his full story and then decide. I finally dialed the number. Ring, ring, ring. I was just about to hang up when I heard his familiar voice. Aisha. I could hear both hope and fear in Malik's voice at the same time. Yes, it's me. My voice was calmer than I had expected it to be. I need you to come home. We need to talk. Really talk, without any secrets or any omissions. I'll be there right away, he answered quickly. I'll be there in under 20 minutes. I hung up the phone and went to wash my face and try to tidy up a bit. I looked at my reflection in the mirror. Pale face, dark circles under my eyes, but a look of determination. I was ready to hear the whole truth, and then decide if this marriage, which had started with a lie, even had a future. Malik arrived in 17 minutes. I let him in and we sat in the living room again, him in the armchair and me on the sofa. There was a visible distance between us, but it wasn't the same kind of abyss that had been there yesterday. Talk, I said. Tell me everything from the very beginning, and don't sugarcoat anything. He nodded and he began to tell me about his marriage to Chloe, how much he had loved her, how they had planned out their entire future together, and how he had accidentally discovered her affair by seeing a message on her phone. How she hadn't even tried to deny it. She had just said that she didn't love him and had wanted to leave for a long time, but was just waiting for the right moment. The divorce was a complete mess, he said, and I could really hear the pain in his voice. She hired a good lawyer and they took half of my business, the condo and the car. I just didn't even want to fight it. I just wanted it all to end as quickly as possible. In the end, I was left with almost nothing. I had to start all over again, take out loans and rebuild the business. He paused, just looking down at the floor. And when I finally got back on my feet, when I started thinking about starting a family again, I realized that I was just terrified. Terrified of being fooled again, terrified of trusting the wrong person again. And then Denise, your godmother, you came to her complaining about your life, and she told me about your fears, and she offered to introduce us. I continued. Yes, she told me all about you, how smart, kind, and honest you were, and that you weren't chasing after money and valued real principles. And I was interested, but the fear was still just too strong. And that's when I proposed this plan to pretend to be mute just to see how you would react. Denise was against it at first, but then she agreed. She said that she understood my concerns. He finally looked up and met my eyes. And you know what the strangest thing is? I didn't even expect to actually like you. I thought that it would just be a transaction, a marriage of convenience where we both got what we needed. Me, a calm wife who wouldn't ever betray me. And you, stability and security. But when we started dating, when I got to know you better, I realized that you are really special. I just remained silent, not really knowing how to react to his words. You were so patient with me, he continued. You even tried to teach me signs, even though I already knew them. You would talk to me for hours, not even caring that I couldn't answer you out loud. You saw a person in me, not just an invalid. And that moved me more than I could have ever imagined. He stood up and came closer, but he didn't sit down next to me, clearly respecting my space. Aisha, I know that I started things off completely wrong, that I deceived you, and that it's probably unforgivable. But everything that was between us, my attention, my care, my genuine interest in you, all of it was real. I genuinely wanted to get to know you. I wanted to make you happy. The only real difference is that I could talk, but I chose not to. I looked at him, trying to understand if he was telling me the truth, or if this was just another lie, beautifully packaged in sincere-sounding words. How can I even believe you? I asked softly. You deceived me for 6 whole months. Every single day, every single date. How can I possibly know that this isn't just another deception? Malik knelt down before me, taking my hands in his. I honestly don't know how to prove my sincerity to you. I don't know how to earn your trust back, but I am willing to spend as much time as it takes. I am ready to start all over honestly, without any games or any pretense. Just give me a chance, Aisha. Just one chance to show you that I can be real. I looked at him, this man that I had married just yesterday, without really knowing who he truly was, and I realized that the decision that I made now was going to determine the entire course of the rest of my life. Forgive him and give him a chance, or just leave, annul this marriage that had begun with a lie, and just try to start my life all over again. I don't know, I admitted. I just don't know what to do. I need some time to sort out my feelings, to really understand what it is that I want. Malik nodded. I understand. Take all the time that you need. I'll wait. He stood up and headed toward the door. At the doorway, he turned back. Aisha, please just know this. I never wanted to hurt you. Never. And if you decide that you just can't forgive me, I will accept that. I won't hold you back, and I won't pressure you. After he left, I was alone again. But this time I didn't cry. I just sat there thinking, trying to understand exactly what I was feeling. Anger, yes, it was still definitely there. Hurt, certainly. But there was something else there too. An understanding that Malik had also been wounded by life, that his fears were very real, and that he was simply just looking for a way to protect himself. But that still doesn't excuse the lie. I repeated to myself like a mantra. I spent the next few days in deep contemplation, not leaving the condo, and not answering any of my mother's calls, who was calling constantly, trying to talk to me. Shayla came over every evening, brought food, and just supported me. Malik didn't call or text. He gave me the space that he had promised. But every evening, a bouquet of flowers would appear on the doorstep. White roses, my favorite, with no note, no words, just flowers, reminding me that he remembered, and that he was waiting. On the 5th day, I decided that I needed to leave the house, go for a walk, get some fresh air, and just try to look at the situation from the outside. I dressed in simple jeans and a sweater and just walked out. I walked for a long time, aimlessly, just wandering the streets, watching people, young couples holding hands, families with children, elderly spouses sitting on a park bench. They all seemed so happy and content, and I just wondered if they really knew everything about each other, or if everyone just had their own secrets, their own omissions, their own little lies. But there's a huge difference between omission and pretense, I reminded myself. I walked into a coffee shop, ordered a coffee and sat down by the window just watching the passers-by. Suddenly I saw Malik. He was walking on the opposite side of the street, talking on his phone, and he looked tired and stressed. I just froze watching him. He didn't see me. He just walked along his path, engrossed in his conversation. And in that moment something just clicked in my head. I realized that despite all of the deception and all of the lies, Malik was a real person, with real feelings and real fears. Not some villain from a fairy tale, not some cunning manipulator, but just a person who had been hurt, and was just looking for a way to protect himself. It doesn't excuse what he did, I told myself, but maybe it explains him. I finished my coffee, paid and walked outside. Malik was already out of sight, but I knew what I had to do next. I needed to talk to him again, to really talk without any anger or any accusations, and just try to understand him, just as he had apparently been trying to understand me all of those months. That evening I called him. He answered after the first ring. "Malik," I said, "come over. We need to talk." "I'll be there in half an hour." I hung up and went to wash my face and freshen up a bit. I looked at my reflection in the mirror. Pale face, dark circles under my eyes, but a determined gaze. I was ready to hear the whole truth, and then decide if this marriage, which had started with a lie, even had a future. He arrived in 30 minutes. We sat down in the living room again, but this time I allowed him to sit next to me on the sofa. "I've been thinking," I started. "I've thought a lot about this whole situation, about you, about myself, about us. And I've realized that I just can't take a step back and just forgive you. Trust just isn't restored in a single day." He nodded. His face was very serious. "But I've also realized that I just don't want to give up. I don't want to destroy what could potentially be, just because of a bad start. So, I propose that we start over. Truly, start over with a completely clean slate." Malik looked at me with hope in his eyes. "What do you mean?" "Let's just pretend that we just met. That there was nothing between us yet. No deception, no lies, no wedding. Just two people who want to get to know each other. Truly get to know each other, without any games or any pretense." I paused, collecting my thoughts. "But this is going to be on my terms. No secrets, no omissions, complete honesty about everything. Your past, your fears, your hopes, and I will be completely honest with you too. I will tell you about my doubts, my feelings, and what I really think." "I agree," Malik said quickly. "To any terms." "Thank you, Aisha. Thank you for this. Here's the English, U.S., translation and rewrite. Expanded as requested. Chance. Don't start thanking me just yet. I'm the one who stopped him. I'm not making any promises that I can just forgive you. And I'm also not promising that things are necessarily going to work out for us as a couple. This is only an attempt, nothing more than that. It's an attempt to see if there is any kind of future for us together." He simply nodded his head at what I said. "I understand completely, and I promise you I will do absolutely everything within my power to prove that I am worthy of having your trust," he said. We then spent the entire evening actually talking. And I mean really talking. It was perhaps the first time we had truly and deeply talked to each other since we initially met. Malik told me all about his childhood. He told me about his parents, how he originally started his business, his hobbies, his dreams, and even his deepest fears. And I also opened myself up to him as well, telling him all about myself, my relationship with my mom, my job, and exactly what I wanted out of life in general. It felt very strange to actually hear his voice, after it had been silent for such a long period of time. It was a very deep and pleasant voice, with a slight gravelly edge to it. He spoke very slowly, thinking over each and every word before he said it, as if he was afraid he would say the wrong thing again. When it started getting very late, Malik stood up, indicating that he was getting ready to leave. "I'll see you tomorrow then?" he asked, his voice full of hope. I just nodded my head in response. "Yes, I'll see you." Come over in the evening and we can have dinner together, I said. He then gave me a smile, and I could see genuine joy and happiness shining in his eyes. With pleasure, he replied. After he left my place, I lay in bed, feeling this strange sense of calm wash over me. It wasn't happiness exactly, no, but it also wasn't that terrible emptiness and pain that had been present before. It was something in between those feelings. Maybe it was hope, perhaps. Hope that we actually could build something real and lasting on the ruins of a lie. The next few weeks that followed were definitely not easy. Malik and I made it a point to meet every single day, talking and slowly getting to know each other all over again, one step at a time. He took me out to restaurants, theaters, and exhibitions just like he used to before, but everything felt very different now. Now he was opening up and actually talking, sharing his thoughts and emotions with me. And I was finally seeing the real him, without that mask of muteness that he had been wearing for so long. I learned that he loved reading classic literature, especially Dostoevsky. That as a child he had dreamed of becoming an architect when he grew up. But life had just taken him in a completely different direction. That he was actually very afraid of heights, but he had never told that to anyone before. And that his favorite season was fall because it reminded him so much of his childhood when he and his parents would go pick mushrooms in the woods. And he also got to know the real me too, not just the person I was always trying to be in order to meet my mom's expectations. He learned that I love to dance even though I'm absolutely terrible at it. That I dream of writing a novel someday, but I'm terrified that I won't actually succeed at it. And that I hate lies in any form, even those small so-called polite ones. I know, he said to me when I confessed all of this to him. That's precisely why I'm so afraid of deceiving you again, even if it's accidentally. Gradually, my initial anger started to subside, and it was slowly replaced by understanding. I still hadn't completely forgiven him at that point, but I was starting to see the whole situation from a slightly different perspective. I was beginning to realize that he was also a victim in all of this. A victim of a deep betrayal that had destroyed his faith in people and relationships. The conversation I had with my mom was much more complicated and difficult. I met up with her 2 weeks after that very first confrontation that we had. We sat in a coffee shop, both drinking tea, and I could see how incredibly nervous she was. She was twisting a napkin around and around in her hands. Aisha, please forgive me, she began to say. I truly didn't want to hurt you in any way. I just wanted you to be happy, to have absolutely everything you needed in your life. Mom, you decided all of this for me, I said calmly. You didn't even bother to ask me what I actually wanted. You just created this whole plan and expected me to simply follow it like some kind of obedient doll. She lowered her eyes and looked down. I know that now and I really regret it. But you have to understand that after your father passed away, I was just so incredibly afraid for you. I was afraid that you would repeat all of my same mistakes. That you would end up marrying for love to some man who couldn't properly provide for you. And when this opportunity arose to settle you down with Malik, I just couldn't pass it up, she said. But Mom, Dad wasn't a mistake, I responded gently. You two loved each other very much. You were happy together. Wasn't that so much more important than money and security? She just shook her head at me. You just don't understand, Aisha. When your father got sick, when I couldn't afford to get him better treatment, when I watched him slowly fade away day by day, I realized that love simply wasn't enough on its own. You also really need stability and the ability to give the person that you love absolutely everything that they need. I then took her hand in mine. Mom, Dad didn't die because of a lack of money. He died because that's just what happened in life. And it's completely wrong of you to blame yourself for that. You did absolutely everything you possibly could have done for him. Tears began streaming down her cheeks. But I could have done so much more. If we had money, if I had chosen a more secure husband, maybe everything would have been different for us. And maybe not, I said. Maybe absolutely nothing would have changed at all. But you would have just lived your entire life with a man that you didn't actually love, and that would have made you very unhappy. We sat there for a very long time holding each other's hands and crying. It was a cathartic experience for both of us. A release from all of those old resentments and unspoken feelings that we had been holding onto for so long. I forgive you, Mom, I finally said to her. But from now on, please trust me. trust my own choices and my decisions. I am a grown adult woman now, and I have the right to my own life. She nodded her head, wiping away her tears. I promise you that I won't interfere ever again, she said. A month had now passed since that night that Malik and I had that deep conversation. We were still living separately from each other at that point. He was staying at his brother's place and I was still in our condo, but we made sure to meet up every single day and rebuild our relationship step by step. One evening as we were walking together in the park, Malik suddenly stopped and took both of my hands in his. Aisha, I really want to ask you something, and I'm asking you to please be completely honest with me, he said. I just nodded my head, feeling my heart starting to beat a little faster. Do we actually have a chance together? Can you ever completely forgive me and give our marriage a real chance? I was silent for a long time just thinking. Had I truly forgiven him completely? No, not yet. The scar of his deception still hurt, and it still reminded me of itself every now and then. But I did feel like we were moving in the right direction overall, and that we were gradually building something real and lasting together. I honestly don't know, I answered him honestly. I don't know if I can ever forgive you completely, but I do know that I want to try. I want to give us a chance to actually become a real family, based on honesty and trust. Malik smiled, and I could see relief and gratitude in his eyes. Then let's try to do this together without any more secrets, without any more lies. Just the two of us building our life together, he said. I nodded my head in agreement. Together, I replied. We then hugged each other tightly, standing there in the park under all of the autumn trees. And in that very moment, I felt that maybe we really did have a chance after all, a chance to build a happy family together, despite that wrong beginning that we had. But there were definitely going to be many more challenges ahead, many more conversations to be had, and a lot of work needed to be done on rebuilding that trust between us. The first challenge didn't keep us waiting for too long. Just 1 week after our conversation in the park, Malik moved back into the condo. We agreed that we would just live as roommates for now, each of us in our own separate room, without any real obligations or pressure. Just two people living under one roof who wanted to get to know each other better. The first few days were strange and awkward. I had really gotten used to being completely alone, used to the silence and freedom, and now I had to share my space with a man who still felt like a bit of a mystery to me. We would meet each other in the kitchen in the mornings, make breakfast together, exchange awkward glances, and try to start some kind of conversation. Malik was really trying his best. He made my coffee just the way that I liked it, left cute little good morning notes on the fridge for me, and offered to help me out with chores around the house. I saw and appreciated his efforts, but inside I was still on guard. Trust just doesn't rebuild quickly, no matter how hard a person tries. One evening, I was busy cooking dinner while Malik was working on his laptop in the living room. Suddenly, the doorbell rang. I wiped my hands on a towel and went to go open the door, not expecting to see any guests at all. A strange woman was standing there on the threshold. She was beautiful, well-groomed, and wearing an expensive coat and high heels. Her long dark hair was styled perfectly. Her makeup was flawless. She gave me an appraising look from head to toe, and I suddenly felt very awkward in my casual jeans and simple t-shirt. Who are you? I asked her, feeling this unexplained anxiety rising up inside of me. The woman smiled at me, but the smile didn't actually reach her eyes. I'm Chloe, Malik's ex-wife. And you, I take it, are the new Mrs. Ellington. My heart just sank. Chloe, the woman who had betrayed Malik, the reason that he had lost his faith in love and had started this whole mute performance. What do you want? I asked her coldly, not even bothering to invite her inside. Chloe then looked over my shoulder into the apartment. I need to talk to Malik. It's important. I'm right here, Malik's voice said from behind me. He walked right up to me and placed his hand on my shoulder, a gesture that felt both protective and comforting at the same time. What are you doing here, Chloe? Chloe smiled again, that same cold smile. Can't you guess? I came to talk about our past, about what we had, and about what perhaps we could still have. I felt Malik tense up right next to me, and his hand tightened on my shoulder. We don't have a future, Chloe. We don't even have a present. There is only a past, and that past ended 2 years ago, he said firmly. Chloe just shook her head in response. You really think so, Malik? We were married for 5 whole years. 5 years of my life that I gave to you. Do you really think you can just erase me like that and start all over again with her? She nodded in my direction, and the utter contempt in her gaze made anger boil up inside of me. She is my wife, Malik said firmly. I ask you to please respect her. As for us, it's been over for 2 years now. You made that choice yourself when you cheated on me and left me for another man. Chloe sighed, and I noticed that her eyes momentarily filled up with tears, but she quickly composed herself. I made a mistake, Malik. I realized it way too late, but I did realize it. That man, he left me after only 6 months. He said that I was just a distraction for him. And you were real. You loved me genuinely, and I was just too foolish to appreciate it. I looked over at her, and despite all of the anger that I was feeling at that moment, I couldn't help but notice the pain in her eyes. A genuine deep pain of remorse. Chloe, even if that's actually true, it's still way too late, Malik responded to her. There was no real anger in his voice, only a sense of weariness. I've moved on from all of that now. I have a new life, a new relationship, and I absolutely don't want to go back to the past. Chloe looked at me and then back at Malik again. Do you truly love her? Or is this just some kind of attempt to forget about me? Malik was silent, and that silence lasted for what felt like forever. I felt something clutch inside of me. Why wasn't he answering immediately? Why was he hesitating at all? I am building a relationship with her, he finally said. An honest, open relationship. And I ask you to please respect that and just leave us in peace. Chloe nodded her head, and a single tear then rolled down her cheek. Fine, I'll leave now. But please know this, Malik. If you ever change your mind, if you ever want to give us a second chance, I'll be waiting for you. She then turned around and walked towards the elevator without even looking back. Malik closed the door and leaned his back against it, closing his eyes. I'm so sorry, he said quietly. I didn't know that she would come here. I didn't know that she wanted to come back to me. I just stood there with my arms crossed over my chest, feeling this strange mix of anger, jealousy, and doubt. You hesitated, I said to him. When she asked you if you loved me, you hesitated. Malik then opened his eyes and looked directly at me. Aisha, I didn't hesitate because I'm still thinking about Chloe. I hesitated because I don't even know if I have the right to talk about love after what I did, after deceiving you for 6 whole months. He then walked closer to me and took my hands in his. But if you're asking me if I have feelings for you, the answer is yes, I definitely do. Strong, deep feelings that have just grown stronger with every meeting that we've had together. And no, I absolutely do not want to go back to Chloe. I don't want to go back to a past that was filled with only pain and betrayal. I looked deeply into his eyes, trying to gauge whether he was telling me the absolute truth or not. And I saw a sincerity in his eyes that was so clear and genuine that I couldn't help but actually believe him. All right, I said softly. But if she ever shows up again, if she tries to get you back in any way, I want to know about it immediately. No more secrets between us. Malik nodded his head in agreement. I promise you, no more secrets. We then went back to our normal routine, but Chloe's unexpected visit had definitely left its mark on me. I caught myself thinking about her from time to time, about how they had been together for 5 years, that they had a history together, a deep connection that we just didn't have, and that gave rise to a lot of doubts within me. Was I even good enough for him? Could Malik truly forget about her and actually build something lasting with me? Shayla, when I told her all about Chloe's visit, was very adamant about it. Aisha, don't let that witch ruin what you and Malik are building together. She only showed up because she found out that he got married again. She's just jealous and bitter that he was able to move on from her, and she was just left all alone. But she was his first love, I countered. 5 years of marriage is a very long time. How could I even compete with that? Shayla then grabbed my shoulders and forced me to look directly into her eyes. You don't have to compete with anyone. You just have to be yourself. If Malik chose you, it means that he sees something very special in you that just wasn't there with Chloe. Trust him and trust yourself, she said. I tried my best to follow her advice, But it definitely wasn't easy. Every time that Malik was late coming home from work, every time that he was silent and just lost in his own thoughts, I thought to myself, what if he's thinking about her right now? What if he regrets marrying me? The situation just escalated even more 2 weeks later, when I accidentally saw a text message on Malik's cell phone. He had left it on the kitchen table and had gone to take a shower. The screen suddenly lit up with an incoming message, and I just instinctively looked over at it. I can't stop thinking about you. Please just meet me one more time. It was from Chloe. My heart just completely stopped. They were still texting each other. Despite all of his promises, despite everything that he had said about wanting only me, they were still texting. When Malik came out of the shower, I was sitting there on the sofa with his phone in my hands. He saw the look on my face and immediately understood what had happened. Aisha, I can explain everything. Explain, I said to him coldly, handing him his phone. Explain why your ex-wife is texting you that she can't stop thinking about you. Explain why you're exchanging texts when you promised me that everything was over between the two of you. Malik took the phone and looked at the message. This is her very first message in 2 weeks. I haven't responded to her at all. I haven't sought out a meeting with her. He then showed me the message history. Indeed, there were only messages from Chloe. Dozens of them begging him to meet her, saying that she missed him, that she really wanted to come back to him. But there wasn't a single response from Malik in any of them. Why didn't you just block her number altogether? I asked him, feeling my anger slowly giving way to bewilderment. Malik then sat down right next to me on the sofa. Because I was afraid that it would look like running away, like I still feel something for her and therefore have to avoid her. I wanted to show you that I didn't care at all, that her words didn't affect me in any way. But they definitely do affect me, I said softly. Every single message that she sends, every attempt that she makes to get you back affects me deeply, because I'm just so unsure about everything. Malik, I'm still unsure about us, about what we're building together. And when she suddenly appears like that, all of my doubts just come rushing back. Malik then took my phone, went into the contacts, found Chloe's number, and then without even saying a single word, he blocked it. Then he did the exact same thing with his own phone as well. See, he said, showing me the screen. I'm blocking her forever. She can't contact me anymore. And if she tries to find some other way to do so, I'll tell her directly that I don't want any kind of communication with her at all. I just looked at him, feeling all of these contradictory emotions battling it out inside of me. Gratitude for his gesture, guilt for making him actually do it, and just a deep sense of relief that he ultimately chose me in the end. Thank you, I whispered to him. That really means a lot to me. Malik then hugged me tightly, holding me close. I know, and I want you to feel completely secure, to know that I chose you not out of some kind of calculation or some kind of game, but simply because I genuinely want to be with you, he said. We just sat there embracing each other, and I felt something warm gradually growing inside of me. Something that resembled trust, not complete trust, not absolute trust, but a beginning, the very start of a real relationship built, not on deception but on honesty and mutual respect for one another. But life, as it turned out, just wasn't ready to give us a break yet. Just 1 week later, I came home from work and found a very strange envelope in the mailbox with no return address on it. I opened it up and immediately froze. Inside were photographs, pictures of Malik and Chloe from their life together. In some of them they were happy, smiling and embracing each other. In others they were pictures from their wedding day, looking so in love and so content with each other. And there was also a note, written in a woman's handwriting. He was happy with me. Truly happy. Can you give him that same level of happiness? I stood there in the foyer holding those old photos, feeling absolutely everything inside of me clench up with pain. They really did look genuinely happy together, truly in love. And who was I really in all of this? Just a rebound for him? Just an attempt to forget about her? Just an experiment that had somehow gone wrong? When Malik finally came home from work, I just silently handed him the envelope. He looked at the photos and his face immediately darkened. It's Chloe, he said. She just won't give up. She's trying to destroy everything that we have together. And what do we even have, Malik? I asked him tiredly. What are we even building here? Because honestly, I just don't know anymore. We live under the same roof, but we sleep in different rooms. We're married, but our marriage started with a complete lie. We talk about our feelings, but I'm just not even sure if they're real at all. Malik then put all of the photos down on the table and walked right over to me. Aisha, I completely understand all of your doubts. I understand that it's hard to believe in the sincerity of a person who started out our relationship with a lie. But I am truly trying here. I genuinely want to build something very real and lasting with you. Then prove it to me, I said, surprised by the sudden firmness of my own voice. Prove it, not with words but with real actions. Because I've already heard way too many words from you, from my mom, from absolutely everyone who supposedly cared about my well-being. I need to see some real actions now. What do you want me to actually do for you? Malik asked me. Just tell me and I'll do it, he said. I thought for a moment about what I truly wanted from him. Did I want him to prove his love for me? But how can real feelings even be proven? Did I want him to cut off all ties with his past? He had already blocked Chloe's phone number. What did I really want from him? I want to meet your family, I finally said. I want to meet your parents and your brother. I want to see how they really feel about you, about us as a couple, and about this marriage in general. I want to fully understand who you truly are, not just through your words, but through the actual people who have known you your entire life. Malik nodded his head in agreement. Okay, I'll call my parents right now and arrange a meeting with them. They've actually wanted to meet you for a long time now, but I just kept putting it off, thinking that we needed to sort out our relationship a bit more first. The meeting was then set for the following weekend. We drove to Malik's parents' country home. On the way there, I was so incredibly nervous, twisting my purse around and around in my hands, and just rehearsing what I was going to say to them. Don't worry so much, Malik reassured me, putting his hand on my knee. They're both very good people. They're going to love you. His parents' home was very large and cozy, with a beautiful garden and a lovely patio area. We were greeted by Malik's mother, Brenda Ellington, a smiling woman in her 60s with kind eyes and a very warm embrace. We finally get to meet each other, she exclaimed, hugging me tightly. Malik has told me so much about you already. Please come in. Come in. Don't just stand out there at the door. Malik's father, Arthur Ellington, was more reserved overall, but he was also very welcoming as well. He shook my hand firmly and looked very closely into my eyes, as if he was trying to assess me in some way. During lunch, Brenda asked me all about my job, my family, and my interests. I just answered her questions honestly, trying to be as open and as honest as possible. I talked about the school where I teach, my students, and my deep love for literature in general. Teacher, that's such a noble profession, Arthur remarked. My own mother taught math her entire life. I saw just how much effort and heart she always put into her students. After lunch was over, Malik went off with his father to the workshop to discuss some business matters, and I stayed in the kitchen with Brenda. We were washing the dishes together when she suddenly asked me, Aisha, may I ask you a personal question? I tensed up a little bit. Of course, I said. Are you happy with my son? Truly happy. I just froze, not really knowing exactly how to answer her question. Was I even happy? Or was I just trying to build something new from the ruins of a deception? I just honestly don't know, I confessed to her. It's all just so complicated. Our marriage didn't really start the way that it should have, and I'm still just trying to figure out what I actually feel for him, and whether or not I can actually trust him. Brenda just nodded her head, wiping off a plate. Denise told me all about your situation, about the plan that she and Malik came up with together. I was completely against it from the very start, you know. I told my son, you absolutely shouldn't build a relationship on lies like that. But he was just so wounded after his divorce from Chloe, so incredibly afraid of being deceived again that he just wouldn't listen to me at all. She then turned to me, putting her hand on my shoulder. But I did see how he really changed after he met you. Even when he was still just pretending to be mute, I saw something completely new in his eyes. Lightness, joy, and hope. The Malik that I just hadn't seen in over 2 years. And I just knew right then that you were very special to him. Not just some wife of convenience but a person who truly mattered to him. Her words really warmed me and gave me a little bit of hope. The truth is very hard, dear, she continued. My son isn't actually perfect. He made a very big mistake by starting your relationship off with a lie. But he is trying to make amends for all of that now. He's trying to be a better man just for you. Isn't that at least worthy of giving him a second chance? I thought about it for a moment. Maybe she was right. Maybe all people make mistakes sometimes. And what actually matters isn't really how you start things out, but how you try to correct those mistakes and make things right. As we were getting ready to leave, Brenda hugged me goodbye and whispered in my ear, "Please give him a chance, Aisha. Give both of you a chance to finally be happy together." On the drive back home, I was very thoughtful and quiet. Malik definitely noticed this. "What are you thinking about so deeply?" he asked me. "About us," I answered. "About what your mother said to me, about how maybe we really do deserve a chance to be happy together." Malik then took my hand in his and kissed my fingers softly. "We definitely do deserve that, Aisha. I really believe that in my heart." When we finally got back home to the condo, a surprise was awaiting us. Chloe was sitting right by the front door. She looked very tired and disheveled, completely unlike that well-groomed woman that I had first seen that other time. "Malik, please just hear me out," she began to say, standing up. "I know that you blocked my phone number, but I really need to talk to you." "We have absolutely nothing to talk about," Chloe, Malik said very sharply. "How many times do I actually have to repeat that to you? It's completely over between us. I'm pregnant," Chloe just blurted out, and both of us just froze right there. The world just seemed to stop completely. I looked over at Chloe, trying to understand if I had actually heard her correctly. "Pregnant? By whom?" "Malik." "That can't possibly be my child," Malik said slowly. "We haven't even been together for 2 years. Chloe then shook her head, and tears streamed down her cheeks. "No, it's not actually your baby. I met another man after we broke up, the one that I actually left you for. We were together for a few months and then he found out that I was pregnant, and he just disappeared on me. He just up and vanished without." She didn't even say goodbye. She just sank right down to the floor by the door, hugging her knees tightly to her chest. It hit me then, the enormity of my mistake. A huge, unforgivable mistake. I had you, Malik. A man who truly loved me and cared about me deeply. And what did I do? I chose adventures, I chose thrills. And what did that get me? I'm pregnant and utterly alone, carrying the child of a man who couldn't even be bothered to say goodbye before he left. And now you're no longer a part of my life. She looked up at us, and her eyes were just overflowing with despair. "I'm not asking you to come back, Malik. I know that's impossible, that ship has sailed. I just wanted you to know how much I regret what I did, how deeply sorry I am." She stood up, quickly wiping away her tears. "I'm sorry I bothered you both. I won't come back here again, and I won't write to you again either. I wish you happiness, Malik. Real happiness, the kind of happiness I just couldn't give you." Then she left, and we were left standing there in the foyer, just trying to process everything that had just happened. "Do you really want to help her?" I asked Malik. He looked back at me. "I don't want to go back to her, Aisha, if that's what you're asking. But she was a part of my life for 5 years, you know? I can't just ignore her now, not when she's clearly in trouble. That wouldn't be the right thing to do." I thought about what he said for a moment. He was right. Despite absolutely everything that had happened between them, Chloe was still a person in real need of help. And to just ignore that, to turn a blind eye, would be to lose a little piece of our own humanity. "All right," I said finally. "Help her, but keep me informed, okay? I want to know exactly how you're helping her, and when you meet with her, if you meet with her at all. Complete transparency, Malik. Remember that." He hugged me then really tight. "Thank you for understanding, Aisha. Complete transparency. Promise you." Over the next week, life started to settle back down into a routine. Chloe didn't show up again. She only sent Malik short messages every now and then, just thanking him for the financial help he was giving her. He showed me every single message, every single money transfer. No secrets, just like he promised. Malik and I were growing closer with each passing day. Gradually, little by little, we started cooking dinner together, watching movies on the couch, and taking walks in the park. Just normal things that normal couples do. And it felt pleasant, calm, and so right. Then one evening, as we were sitting on the sofa together after dinner, Malik suddenly said, "Aisha, I want to tell you something important." I tensed up immediately. Every single time he started a sentence like that, I expected another confession, another secret from his past to come tumbling out. "I love you," he said simply. "I know I've said it before, but now I want to say it differently to really mean it. Without any reservations, without any doubts clouding my feelings. I love you, Aisha. I love your kindness, I love your strength, and I love your incredible capacity for forgiveness. I love the way you smile when you're reading a book and get lost in the story. I love the way you talk about your students with such tenderness and genuine care. I love everything about you." I looked at him and I could feel my eyes starting to fill with tears. No one had ever said such wonderful things to me before, so sincerely, so openly. "I'm not asking you to say it back right now," he continued, still holding my gaze. "I know you need time, that trust is something you have to rebuild slowly, brick by brick. I just want you to know how I truly feel, without any games, without any pretense, just the honest truth." I reached out my hand and gently touched his cheek. "Thank you for your honesty, Malik, for not pressuring me or rushing me into anything." He covered my hand with his. "We have time, Aisha," he said softly. "We have our whole lives ahead of us." But as it turned out, life still had one more test waiting for us, one more hurdle to overcome. About a month later, I started feeling really unwell. I was experiencing morning sickness, dizziness, and just general weakness. At first, I blamed it on stress, on simply being overtired from work. But when the symptoms didn't go away after a week, I decided to go to the doctor and get checked out. The test came back showing 2 lines. I was pregnant. I just sat there in the gynecologist's office, holding the test results in my hand, unable to believe what I was seeing. Pregnant? I was pregnant with Malik's child, the man I wasn't even living with as husband and wife because I wasn't quite ready for that level of intimacy yet. But how? I whispered, more to myself than to anyone else. The doctor just smiled warmly. "You are married, as far as I can tell from your paperwork. Were you not using any form of birth control?" I blushed, feeling my cheeks burn with embarrassment. "We didn't use protection that one night after the wedding, the night when Malik still hadn't confessed to me that he could speak, the night I had been trying to forget, to completely erase from my memory, because it was all based on deception. I honestly didn't think it would happen from just one time." The doctor simply shrugged her shoulders. "It happens," she said. "Congratulations, you'll be a mother in about 7.5 months. I left the hospital in a state of complete shock. Pregnant. I was going to have a baby with Malik, the man I was still so unsure about, the man I wasn't even sure I could fully trust yet. What should I do? Tell him? Of course I had to tell him. But how would he react? Would he be happy, or would he be scared that it was all happening too soon, that we hadn't sorted out our relationship enough yet? I walked around in a fog all day, just constantly rehearsing in my head how I was going to tell him the news. When Malik finally came home from work, I was sitting at the kitchen table, nervously fiddling with a napkin. "Aisha, what's wrong?" He immediately noticed that something was off. "You look pale." "I need to tell you something," I began, my voice trembling slightly. "Something important, something that's going to change absolutely everything." Malik sat down across from me and took both of my hands in his. "Tell me," he said gently. "Whatever it is, we'll get through it together." "I'm pregnant," I blurted out, then just fell silent, waiting anxiously for his reaction. Malik just froze. His eyes widened in surprise. His face went pale, then flushed a deep red. He opened his mouth as if to speak, but then just closed it again, completely speechless. "You're pregnant? With my baby?" I nodded slowly. "From that night after the wedding. I didn't expect it, Malik. I really didn't think it would happen from just one time." Malik suddenly stood up, walked around the table to where I was sitting, and hugged me so tightly that I could barely breathe. This is the best news of my entire life, Aisha. The absolute best. We're going to have a baby, Aisha. Our baby. I could feel tears streaming down his cheeks. Tears of joy, tears of pure happiness, and tears of hope for the future. Aren't you scared? I asked him tentatively. Don't you think it's all happening too soon? Malik pulled back slightly and looked directly into my eyes. Of course I'm scared, he admitted honestly. Scared that I'll be a bad father, that I won't be able to cope with everything, but I'm so much more happy than I am scared because this baby connects us in a way we've never been connected before. It gives us another chance to truly become a real family. His words warmed my heart. Maybe this truly was a chance for us, a chance to build something real and solid, something founded not on deception and lies, but on love for our future child. But I don't want you to stay with me just because of the baby, Malik added, his voice filled with sincerity. If you still have doubts about us, if you don't feel like you can trust me completely, just tell me. I promise I will be involved in the baby's life and help you in any way that I can, but I won't hold you in a relationship where you're unhappy, Aisha. I looked at him, at this man who had started our relationship with a lie, but who was now being completely honest and open with me. And suddenly I realized that despite all of my fear and all of my lingering doubts, I really wanted to try. I wanted to give us a chance, a real chance to become a family. I'm staying, Malik, I said firmly. Not just because of the baby, but because I think I'm starting to love you. Truly love you more and more each day. Malik hugged me again and we stood there for a long time, just holding each other, feeling something new and profound growing between us. Not passion, not just infatuation, but something much deeper, something more enduring. A love built on honesty, trust, and mutual respect. The following months were challenging, but also incredibly happy. The pregnancy went smoothly, and I gradually got used to the idea of becoming a mother soon. Malik was by my side every second of the way. He came to all of the doctor's appointments with me, read countless books about pregnancy and childbirth, and lovingly prepared the nursery for our baby. My mom, when she finally heard about the pregnancy, was absolutely ecstatic. See, my daughter, I told you that Malik was perfect for you. Now you'll finally have a complete family. I didn't argue with her, even though I really wanted to say that a family is built on love, not on some pre-planned calculation. But my mom was happy, and I didn't want to ruin her mood. We no longer crossed paths with Chloe. Malik continued to help her financially until she gave birth. Then she herself refused any further help, saying that she had found a stable job and could now provide for herself and her baby. Do you think she'll manage okay? I asked Malik one day. I think so, he replied thoughtfully. Chloe is a strong woman, Aisha, when she really wants to be. Maybe motherhood will change her, make her even more responsible. In the 7th month of my pregnancy, Malik and I finally decided to live as true husband and wife, no longer sleeping in separate rooms, but together in the same bed. It felt strange and exciting at the same time, but also felt so right, as if everything had finally fallen perfectly into place. Aisha, Malik said one night as we lay embracing each other. Thank you. For what? I wondered. For giving me a chance, he said softly. For not giving up on me when it would have been so much easier to just walk away. For believing in us even when I didn't deserve it. I turned to him and looked deeply into his eyes. I want to say thank you too, Malik, for changing, for learning to be honest with me, and for loving me despite all of my fears and lingering doubts. He kissed me tenderly, carefully, as if I were the most precious thing he had in the world. And in that moment I knew that yes, I loved him deeply and truly. The birth started 2 weeks early. I woke up in the middle of the night with a sharp, intense pain in my lower abdomen. Malik woke up immediately and jumped right out of bed. The contractions are starting, he said, his voice filled with concern. I nodded, clenching my teeth against the increasing pain. I think so, I managed to say. He was amazing, so calm, so collected, and he seemed to know exactly what to do. He helped me get dressed, packed the hospital bag that we had prepared in advance, and called a taxi. On the way to the hospital, he held my hand tightly, comforting me and telling me that everything was going to be just fine. The labor was long and incredibly hard, 14 hours of intense pain, complete exhaustion, and overwhelming fear. But Malik was right there by my side every single minute. He never left, wiped my brow with a cool cloth, and whispered words of encouragement in my ear. And finally, when I thought I honestly couldn't bear it anymore, a loud cry rang out through the room. The cry of our daughter, who had just come into the world. "It's a girl," the midwife announced with a smile, gently placing the tiny bundle on my chest. "Congratulations," she said. "A healthy, beautiful baby girl." I looked down at the tiny human in my arms, at her wrinkled red face, at her tiny fingers that were already clutching tightly to my hand, and I felt an incredibly overwhelming feeling of love just wash over me. "Our daughter," I whispered softly, unable to look away from her. Malik stood right beside me, tears streaming uncontrollably down his cheeks. "Our baby girl is the most beautiful baby in the entire world," he said, his voice choked with emotion. "We named her Nova, which means new, and she truly was our new love, the center of our entire universe from the very first second." The first few months of motherhood were tough, no doubt about it. Sleepless nights, constant exhaustion, and the constant fear that I was somehow doing something wrong. But Malik was right there with me every second, helping with every little thing. He got up in the middle of the night so that I could get some much-needed sleep, changed countless diapers, and rocked Nova gently whenever she cried. I would often see him looking at our daughter with such tenderness and adoration that my heart just swelled with happiness. He was a wonderful father, so attentive, so caring, and always ready to help in any way he could. "You are an amazing mother, Aisha," he said to me one day as we sat together watching Nova sleep peacefully in her crib. "And you are an amazing father, Malik," I replied, reaching out to take his hand. He looked back at me, and there was so much love and gratitude in his eyes that I felt tears welling up in my own eyes. "Aisha, I want to say it again," he said softly. "Forgive me for how we started, for all the deception, the lies, and the games. If I could somehow go back in time, I would do absolutely everything differently. I would start our relationship honestly, openly, without any secrets." I shook my head gently. "Don't, Malik," I said. "What's done is done, and we can't change the past. But we can build our future, and I think we're doing a pretty good job of it so far." Malik hugged me tightly, holding me close. "I love you, Aisha," he whispered. "I love you more than life itself." "I love you, Malik," I replied, despite everything that happened between us. We just sat there like that for a while, embracing each other, listening to our daughter's quiet breathing. And I felt in my heart that yes, we were truly happy. Despite the difficult start, despite all the challenges that we had faced, we had somehow found each other, found true love, and created a real family. Another year passed by quickly. Nova grew bigger and stronger every day, delighting us with her smiles, her first words, and her first wobbly steps. Malik and I also grew closer and stronger as a couple. The trust that had been destroyed in the beginning gradually returned, piece by piece. Not completely, perhaps, because scars from the past remain forever, but enough for us to feel truly secure and content with each other. One day, Malik came home from work with a mysterious smile on his face. "I have a surprise for you," he said, pulling a sealed envelope from his pocket. I opened it eagerly and saw 2 tickets to Paris for 2 whole weeks. "But how?" I asked, completely surprised. "What about Nova?" "My parents have agreed to watch her while we're gone," he said, grinning. "They've been wanting to spend more time with their granddaughter for a long time now, and we really need a vacation, Aisha. Sometime just for the 2 of us." I looked at the tickets, and contradictory feelings battled inside me. On the one hand, I had always dreamed of taking a trip like this, of visiting Paris with the man I loved. On the other hand, I was honestly terrified to leave Nova, afraid that something terrible would happen while I was away. "Don't worry," Malik said, as if he could somehow read my thoughts. "She'll be perfectly fine, Aisha. My mom will manage everything perfectly, and we really need some time alone together. Just to remember that we're not just parents, but also husband and wife." He was right. We deserved this vacation, these 2 weeks just for us. Paris was truly magical. We walked hand in hand through the narrow, winding streets, drank coffee in small cafes, went up the Eiffel Tower, and admired the priceless works of art in the Louvre. Malik was attentive and romantic, just as I had always dreamed my husband would be. Then, one evening, as we were sitting on the banks of the Seine River, Watching the sun slowly set over the city, Malik suddenly knelt down on one knee. "What are you doing?" I asked, completely surprised. He pulled out a small velvet box and opened it. Inside was a ring, not as lavish or extravagant as the one he had given me with his first proposal, but simple, elegant, with a small heart-shaped stone set in the center. "Aisha, I know we're already married," he said, his voice full of emotion. "I know we have a beautiful daughter and a family together, but I want to do this properly this time. I want to ask you again, genuinely, without any games or deception. Will you marry me, Aisha? Will you become my wife? Not because of someone else's plan or scheme, but by your own free choice." I looked at him, at this man who had traveled such a long and difficult road from deceiver to honest, loving husband and father, and I felt my heart overflow with love. "Yes," I whispered through my tears, "yes, 1,000 times yes." He slipped the ring onto my finger, hugged me tightly and kissed me deeply. And in that moment I felt that everything we had been through, all the challenges and all the doubts, was absolutely worth it because it had led us here, to this moment of true love and happiness. When we finally returned home, Nova greeted us with joyful cries, reaching out her little arms to us. We hugged and kissed her, telling her how much we had missed her while we were away. I realized then that this was true happiness, not perfect, not like something out of a fairy tale, but real, hard-earned, and completely worth it. Another 2 years passed quickly. Nova started preschool. Malik and I lived a calm, measured life. Work, family, friends, just the ordinary life of an ordinary couple who loved each other very much. My mom sometimes came to visit, helped out with Nova, and told me about her life. Our relationship had mended over time, although I still remembered her role in that initial deception. But I had forgiven her, understanding that she had truly meant well, even if she had taken the wrong path to get there. Shayla became Nova's godmother and a close friend of our family. She often came over to our house, played with Nova, and chatted with me about life in general. "You know, Aisha, I'm really proud of you," she said to me one day. "You somehow managed to turn a lie into a truth, a deception into real love. That really counts for a lot, you know." Chloe got married about 1.5 years after Nova was born, to a good man who completely accepted her child as his own. She even sent Malik an invitation to the wedding, and surprisingly we went. It felt strange but also somehow right, to show her that we held no grudges and that we truly wished her all the happiness in the world. "Thank you so much for coming," she said at the wedding, walking over to us. "And thank you for everything, Malik. For all of your help and for your understanding. You were honestly better than I deserved." Malik just nodded. "Be happy, Chloe," he said sincerely. "You really do deserve it." Then one day when Nova was about 3 years old, she asked us a very simple question. "Mommy, Daddy, do you love each other?" Malik and I exchanged glances and smiled at each other. "Yes, sweetie," I replied, my voice full of love. "We love each other very much." "And how did you two meet?" Nova asked curiously. I hesitated for a moment. Should I tell her the truth about how it all really started, with a lie and a deception? Or should I just make up a nice, beautiful story for her? Malik took my hand and squeezed it gently. "We met in a very unusual way, Nova," he began, his voice calm and reassuring. "At first, we didn't really understand each other very well, and we made some mistakes along the way. But then we learned to be honest and open with each other, and now we are a family." Nova nodded, satisfied with his answer, and ran off to play with her toys. "Thank you," I whispered to Malik, "for not lying to her." "I don't lie anymore, Aisha," he replied simply. "Never to anyone. I learned that thanks to you." I hugged him tightly, and we just sat there holding each other, watching our daughter play happily. And I thought about the incredible journey that we had traveled together. From that night when he spoke his first words and shattered all of my illusions, to this very day, when we were a happy family founded on love and trust. Yes, we started with a lie. Yes, our marriage was initially based on deception and manipulation, but we somehow managed to turn that into something real, something beautiful, because it really doesn't matter how you start a relationship. What truly matters is how you continue it, and how you ultimately finish it. And our story, which began on that strange and unsettling evening when my supposedly mute husband suddenly spoke, turned into a story of true love, A love that withstood the test of deceit, doubt, and fear, and somehow survived, growing stronger and more genuine with each passing day. Sometimes when I'm falling asleep next to Malik, I remember that night so vividly, the moment when the door closed behind us, and he spoke his very first words. Words that completely destroyed my world, but that also gave birth to something entirely new. And I honestly don't regret giving him a chance. I don't regret not leaving him when it would have been the easiest thing in the world to do. Because if I had left him then, I would have missed out on all of this love, this family, and this incredible happiness that we have built together. Yes, it wasn't easy. Yes, there were definitely moments when I wanted to give up, when it seemed so much easier to just start over with someone else than to try to restore the broken trust between us. But I held on. We both held on, and it was absolutely worth it. Our story isn't a fairy tale with a perfect prince and a flawless princess. It's just the story of two ordinary people who made mistakes, who hurt each other, and who doubted each other along the way, but who, despite all of that, chose each other, chose again and again to be together, to work on our relationship, and to build something real and lasting. And now, years after that fateful night, I can honestly say with complete certainty that I am happy. Truly profoundly happy. I have a husband who loves me deeply, and whom I love with all of my heart. I have a daughter who fills our lives with joy and laughter. I have a family. A real family that is built on honesty and mutual respect. Sometimes my mom asks me, have you finally forgiven me for that plan? For being a part of the deception? And I always answer her truthfully, yes, Mom. I've forgiven you because despite your wrong methods, you ultimately helped me meet the man that I am truly happy with. And Malik often asks me too, do you ever regret not leaving then, Aisha? Do you ever regret giving me a second chance? And I always say to him, no, Malik, I don't regret it for a single second because you were absolutely worth that chance. Our story is a story about forgiveness, about how people can truly change, grow, and become better versions of themselves. It's about how the mistakes that we make in the past don't have to define us forever. What truly matters is how we try to fix those mistakes and learn from them. Our story is a story about trust, about how incredibly difficult it can be to rebuild it once it's been broken, but also about how it is absolutely possible if both people are willing to put in the hard work, to be honest and open with each other, and to communicate effectively. And ultimately, our story is a story about love. Real love, the kind of love that doesn't necessarily come at first sight, that is never perfect or easy, and that demands constant work, patience, and understanding, but which ultimately provides more happiness and fulfillment than any romantic fairy tale ever could. And when Nova grows up and asks me for advice on how to build a successful relationship, I will tell her our story honestly, without any pretense or sugarcoating. I will tell her about how we started with a lie, but we're still able to build a true and lasting love. I will tell her that what truly matters is not how you begin a relationship, but how you choose to continue it. I will tell her that forgiveness is not a sign of weakness, but a true act of strength. That giving people a second chance is not foolishness but wisdom. That love is not just about butterflies in your stomach and a racing heart, but it's about the daily work of building a strong relationship, building yourself into a better person, and building unwavering trust. I truly hope that when she finally meets her own person, she will be wiser than we were, and that she won't start her relationship with a lie, but will instead build it on a foundation of honesty and openness right from the very beginning. But if something does go wrong, if she faces betrayal or lies at some point, I hope that she remembers our story and understands that anything can be fixed if both people truly want it to be. Because that burning desire to be together, no matter what challenges life throws your way, is what true love is all about. Not perfect love, not love from fairy tales, but real love, the kind of love that lasts a lifetime. And when I look at Malik, at the way he plays with our daughter, how he laughs at her silly jokes, how he kisses her goodnight and tells her bedtime stories, I know in my heart that I made the right choice. The choice to stay, the choice to forgive, and the choice to give us a second chance. Because love is ultimately a choice, not just a fleeting feeling that comes and goes, but a daily choice to be there for someone, to support them, to love them unconditionally, and to forgive them when they make mistakes. And I choose Malik every single day just as he chooses me. And ultimately, that's all that really matters in the end. I'm really glad you're here and that I could share my story with you all. If you liked it, please show me by liking the video and subscribing to my channel. Let's see how many of us there are out there. Write in the comments which city you're watching from and what time it is where you are. I'm so curious to know where all you wonderful people are tuning in from. If you want to support me a little extra, you can also send a small donation through the link below. I share new and inspiring life stories for you every single day. And now, 2 of my most popular stories will pop up on the screen so you can choose what to watch next.